From the Kaiser Permanente studios here in Atlanta, we ain't messing around. It's SDH AM. John here, you there. We're 5 minutes early because we needed the extra 5 minutes. Opening kickoff goes to this person. Saw the white smoke over Two Penn Plaza yesterday afternoon, and it means that MLS has a new commissioner who is being unveiled at noon. Margaret Fleming from Front Office Sports, without her coffee, is with us batting leadoff. How are you holding up, by the way?
We're making it happen. Last week was insane, and things just aren't slowing down. So we're just rolling.
All right. So we all kind of got the word that with everyone meeting in ivory towers and glass doors enclosed and all this kind of stuff, that this was probably going to happen yesterday. It did. Larry Berg was one of two names that was mentioned off the top as one of the contenders. It is now Larry Berg. He has broken the tape first. He is now going to be the new commissioner. And it's an interesting time for Major League Soccer on a bunch of different fronts to introduce a new commissioner.
Absolutely. I mean, he's going to come in January 1st, right before his first season will be the sprint season, and in the spring. And then he will oversee the first fall to spring season. He will be in charge of the next media deal, whatever that ends up being. He's stepping in at a really pivotal time for this league, and I think it'll be interesting to see where he takes it. He's obviously been around the league for quite some time, and there's a lot of trust and faith in him, and he's a business guy and comes from that business background. They chose him over the other contender was a former Fox executive, so I guess that shows that media is important to the next phase, but wasn't the penultimate, the most important thing. So yeah, I mean we'll see how he does, but first commissioner, first new commissioner since '99, which is wild.
It is crazy to think about when it comes to what Don Garber has done. I'm not going to ask you the Don Garber legacy question until after we talk about MLS Cup, because it's like, you're kicking dirt on the guy. Well, he's not done. We're not doing that yet. When you look at these crossroads, this is an intersection of a bunch of different things and stoplights and arrows. You mentioned the media deal.
Mm-hmm.
And how that was brought to the table earlier. I think it's 29, I think, is when it ends instead of 32.
Yes, sir. That's it.
And so you wonder what direction they'll go after that or with that. Larry Berg will be a part of this. And also he comes from the private equity element of it all. And we know what private equity means and what private equity wants. They want return on investment. Otherwise, they're not going to be happy about things. And I think, a little bit more than half of the franchises right now have ties to private equity. Where do you see the private equity element, the business element of that attached to this future of MLS, whatever 0.0 you want to call it?
It's interesting because we just spent the last week talking about getting private equity out of soccer, and now we're like choosing a private equity executive to lead MLS. I mean, it makes sense. It's a completely different thing for private equity at the governing body level versus the private level. Like you said, I think it's 16 teams that have some kind of tie to PE. So, yeah, I mean, I think to me this kind of signals that MLS is trying to take a step forward in the business world. I think a comparison that I'm drawing in my head is like the WNBA bringing Kathy Engelbert, and like she has had plenty of criticism, like much deserved over her time, but she came from that consulting business background with Deloitte, and then has just like really, she calls it, I think, like hyper growth, like really launched into this business phase over the last few years of her tenure. And so I feel like I'm kind of seeing like similar kind of echoes of that. We said, I think the media deal will probably be the biggest test for what he's able to do. And I think there's a number of ways that they could do it and it could be successful, but I think it's a huge opportunity and going to be a massive part of whether or not his first, few years or his tenure, I don't know how long, if he's planning on sticking around 30 years or whatever, but just to kind of, it'll be a big litmus test of how he's doing, is how that media deal comes together.
Yeah, and as a part of the alphabet soup that you mentioned when it comes to, okay, so you said PE, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have PKR, which is HSH, which is also PE, in MLS NEXT PRO, and NYCFC II might be heading in that direction. So I was trying to figure out how to do it without any kind of caffeine, but in English, Colbert Kravis Roberts, just KKR because of you don't want to get locked into the whole Kentucky Fried Chicken KFC thing.
Right.
Hometown Soccer Holdings, MLS Next Pro, NYCFC2. It was announced, I think, yesterday that they might be heading in that direction. They might be separating from the flock and all this kind of stuff. So you'll have that private equity attachment to it. But I think also, and you mentioned revenue with the WNBA, you're going to be seeing that now with Major League Soccer because you're going to want to take that next step when it comes to all of roster space, adding designated players, probably working the salary cap to have a different floor and a ceiling. And so you've got to figure out how to bring in all of this talent that you want to navigate with, all these big names that you anticipate bringing in, but you've got to do it in a different salaried structure. And when you're changing over from where you currently are to the rest of the soccer schedule worldwide, I mean, that's another interesting thing that you've got to tackle here.
Oh, 100%. Like when you think about within the first calendar year, MLS is going to be on the fall to spring, and the thought of what that opens up talent wise. Can MLS in its current structure get the players it wants to get? And I'm not even talking just like salary in single entity structure. Are they able to do that in the current way that you can have designated players and like get those kind of salaries? Is that enough to have this small number, or will they need to open that wider? There's a lot of questions of like, if you want to be one of the top contenders in the world, like you gotta kind of make some business decisions that allow you to be there. I think a lot of sports leagues are turning to private equity right now, and I think there's pros and cons to that. Of course, there's things you worry about, and like you said, they want a return on investment. Somebody told me last week, an expert, corporate governance expert that I was talking to about the FIFA stuff, they were like private equity is about making profit, and that's not always the goal with soccer entities. With FIFA, whole other question. But you think about MLS, it's like, okay, are they trying to just make money? Are they trying to be the most, compete right up there with the European leagues? Are they trying to be able to pay players up there? There's a lot of questions, and obviously so much of it ties back to the media deal, because the media deal is able to fund a lot of different operations and rosters and all the things. So yeah, I think it's going to be it's like if we're here, it's like, is this just going to go skyrocketing up right now in the next like 5-10 years, or is it just going to kind of keep slowly climbing? And either way, growth is growth. You hope it doesn't go down, but I think there's opportunity here to really take things off if Larry Berg plays his cards right.
Well, and you mentioned the growth curve. I think it's safe to say that the top 4 leagues worldwide, you can pretty much lock them in. But I think for Major League Soccer 10 to 12, depending on who you look at, I think having the number 5 or number 6 league in the world is attainable because of the talent that you're bringing in, level of competition, evenness across the board. But it does present an interesting challenge because the single entity structure is what got them to this point. And now you have this idea of private equity folks wanting to dive in and challenge the economics of success and then bring in more money. It seems like these are chainsaws here that are, it's an interesting juggle and trying to figure out, okay, we can really be a top 5 league, but we got to figure out how to do it, but not go outside of ourselves, if that makes any sense.
To make another women's basketball comparison, because I can never stop talking about women's basketball, it reminds me of like how the W is primarily owned by the NBA. Mm-hmm. And so that has really accelerated its growth in a lot of ways and gotten it to where it is. And at the same time, the players can't get half the revenue just like, you can in other major leagues, because half the revenue is going to the NBA. And then they got to split it from the W from there. So it's like, it's the same kind of thing of like, this has allowed us to get to this point, but at what point are we outgrowing our own business model? I don't know if MLS is there yet. I mean, I was reading articles yesterday that were saying like, why MLS should scrap the single entity model from, long before now. So this has obviously been a topic for a while, and I think it would definitely like ruffle some feathers if Larry Berg comes in and just changes that all around. But yeah, I mean, I think there's like a lot of questions about the business of this league and how it operates, and what it needs to do to get on that level that it wants to be at. And I think that's definitely something to think about, is if they want to keep that model or switch to something else. There's plenty of money floating around that they could certainly make some changes, but yeah, just another one of those things that we'll see where it goes.
What do you want to hear from Larry Berg today, starting at noon?
I feel like I'm just saying the same thing over, but I want to hear him talk about media. I want to hear him talk about like what his priorities are going into that deal, like what he's focused on. Is he going for just money at all costs, as much money as possible, or is he going for our viewership is not great because we are not transparent with numbers right now, and we need to be able to like be more accessible to people and not be behind one paywall or two paywalls, is he going to talk about, like what is most important for him going into this? Is it aligning with a major network? Is it, there were obviously priorities that went into the Apple deal, and you can assess how those went, but I'm curious, thinking of the next one. And I don't think it's too soon to be thinking about that and having those conversations, because those get worked out like within the next year or two. And then like that those conversations will happen long before 2029. So I'll be interested about that. I will be interested to hear just like where he I think I kind of want to hear some realness from him. Like, I think that MLS has really kind of pushed this, we'll take it from here, campaign. And I want to know how. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you doing to actually like appeal to fans, to grow your fan base, to like what smart business decisions are you making to like to even things out, among cities. Like you saw what the World Cup was, and obviously a missed opportunity to not start, into the fall to spring now, but like what other things are you able to do that can kind of like build off of that momentum, concrete ways. I don't want to hear, like you hear so much of like, oh, and everybody cares about soccer and the momentum and it's also great. Like, what are you going to do?
You don't want platitudes. You want actual facts and activity.
I just want to know what he's going to do. Like, he gave all these presentations that clearly like have thoughts about him and think he has a clear vision. Like, what is your vision and how is it going to be different from what the last 30 years under Don Garber were? So that's what I hope to hear, is some concrete ways that he is going to take this league in a different direction or grow on whatever he's going to do. I don't want this just everything's so great.
You don't want boilerplate sound bites where you sit there and you're raising your eyebrow going, okay, I could have just stamped and done the soundbite flow chart.
Well, that's part of what being a commissioner is you take the tough questions and you can handle them. I mean, you see Roger Goodell when he sits down, he's just taking things like from left and right, all different topics, and like that's just part of it. If you want to be considered a top league, you got to be ready to like answer and face the tough questions. And so I like want him to off the bat like show that he can do that, is my thought. Yeah.
All right, so noon is when the event is supposed to begin at 2 Penn Plaza, and I imagine there might be maybe something I don't know, hot tea-ish, because you're trying to avoid the caffeine thing. So whatever you're trying to do out the door there at front office to get you toward 2 Penn Plaza. How long of a commute is that from where you are to 2 Penn?
It's like a 10-15 minute walk.
It's not too bad. Okay.
Yeah, we have a few people going over. Some of our video people are going and stuff. So we'll have a little crew. So that'll be nice.
All right. So as always, Margaret, it's great to see you. Great to have your insights and great to have your intel, especially. And thanks for doing this on the hop, especially with breaking news, developing stories, and all this kind of stuff. May everything stick to the cards. May they not be corrupted. May the laptops all function correctly, and may everything make slot and deadline. You know how to come and visit anytime you want. So if there's anything you want to vent on, shoot, even if it's Toronto and Atlanta and the WNBA, you got a home. It's always good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your morning.
You too. Margaret Fleming, Front Office Sports, hanging out with us, and she's like out the door. She literally is like bang, and she's heading to the introductory press conference slated at noon for the doors to open at 11, event to begin at noon, and joining the introductory press conference electronically will be how we do it. Jimmy Haslam, CEO and chair of Haslam Sports Group, co-chair of the MLS Succession Committee. Bennett Rosenthal, lead managing owner of LAFC, which is also where Larry Berg is coming from. Co-chair of the MLS Succession Committee, Don Garber and Larry Berg, set to answer questions once again. Press conference, MLS headquarters, New York City, and that is at noon. I can't thank Margaret enough for doing this and hopping in from the absolute beginning, because it is going to be an interesting day in New York City to try to find out what Don Garber has on his mind, as we now have the succession plan completed. And it is going to be Larry Berg, the new commissioner of Major League Soccer. Don Garber is going to, after January 1st, be put in a role of chairman. Morning, Alex. Morning, David. So he will still be around to help out in advisory capacities and answering questions and all that kind of stuff. So it will be interesting to determine. And I like Margaret. I'm like, okay, how does this work? How does this with how does this work with Larry Berg in charge? And for those that may not know completely, LAFC co-managing owner, longtime Apollo Global management partner. And you had Korn Ferry, CAA, the Miles Group, knock it down to Berg and former Fox exec David Nathanson. Both gentlemen had their say on Monday in the league offices, and it was Berg who was given the okie doke. Obviously, he has to sell his ownership stake before he can take over. And you have 2 Supporter Shields, an MLS Cup, 2 CONCACAF Champions Cup finals appearances since 2018. And so most of his career was at Apollo. Close to $1 trillion under management before moving over to Josh Harris's 26 North 4 years ago. And so you have a league going from 10 teams to 30 under Don Garber. You have no academies to 30 academies. You have MLS Next Pro coming online. And you now have, in a statement, Berg saying as a part of it yesterday, have an extraordinary opportunity to strengthen the quality of our competition. And so you now have, once again, that revenue growth, the $2.5 billion Apple deal to 2029, right up to the 2030 World Cup. And then you now have the fall to spring calendar flip. You've got aligning with everybody else. So the U.S. is going metric with their calendar. And so now you have more opportunities to grow and transfer revenues because you're in line with everyone else. It's not one of those situations where, hey, I'm up against it in my window, he's not up against it in his, so they can wait me out. And so now you're in line with everyone else when it comes to the worldwide transfer market, and you have that can be attached. And so you now have an owner, you now have a commissioner, soon to be commissioner, who has been an owner. And so he knows from that perspective about all the roster rules and the revenue and what you need to do and where you need to anticipate. And okay, so if this is true, then this is true, and all of here and ticket sales and all this kind of stuff. And so that's kind of what we're staring at here with Larry Berg. Now, noon Eastern time, and that will be the announcement at Two Penn Plaza. Like I said, we had the White Smoke yesterday at Two Penn Plaza, and now today, coming up at noon, 2 hours and 41 minutes from now, he'll be introduced and he'll have questions and answers. Speaking of questions and answers, there is someone who can take, and I just dated myself because I just had a thought. Literally, he can take White out, and he can go, and he can sit there and go either interim or caretaker, whatever it was on the business card, and he can sit there and white that out because that doesn't apply anymore. Richard Dixon, no longer interim, no longer caretaker. You are the head coach of Chattanooga FC. Congratulations. Welcome to the morning show. I know you're on the hop this morning too.
Thank you, John. Yeah, thank you for having me.
So how does it feel?
Yeah, it feels good. It's exciting. Obviously, been working here for a while as a player and as a coach, as an assistant coach and a performance director. And to come from playing, hearing about the club back in my college days when my old coach Bill Elliott used to be the coach here. Wanted to get me to come and play for CFC in the summer, but couldn't because I was playing in the USL. To obviously signing on for the club in 2020 and playing for 4 seasons, to now come full circle to be the head coach. It's a very exciting moment, and I'm extremely humbled to step into this role.
Yeah, and I mean, what soccer means to the Southeast, because from your time in college when you were in Argo, and you've been, let me see if I can remember all the different places that you've played here in the Southeast. Baton Rouge. I want to say, where was Bria? Were they in Clinton?
Yeah, Mississippi, yes, and yeah.
I was trying to remember what city they were because they've been in various.
Jackson.
So,
yeah.
Okay. So we'll go Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi. You sat down for literally a cup of coffee in Panama City. Tampa, Charlotte, and then you've spent some time in St. Louis, and then obviously at OKC, and then you were there in Chattanooga. What has it been like for you to see the game grow? Just period, but obviously you've seen it in a bunch of different pockets in the Southeast. But what's it been like for you to see it grow as a player, now as a coach, and know that the expectation levels are different when it comes to having a soccer franchise that happens to be based in the Southeast?
That's I'm really impressed with the research that you've done. That's very impressive. But I think for me, coming to the U.S., obviously I came over from Jamaica when I was 16 years old and finished high school in South Florida, then went to the University of West Florida. It was kind of difficult, not difficult, but different, I would say, the soccer culture. You look at youth soccer in Jamaica and college soccer, it's a lot different than it is here. But then to step into the professional game whenever there was only a few leagues, when I played in the USL in the early days, it was just the MLS and the USL, and then the NSL came back online. So to see kind of the evolution of the game in the US in general, but then the Southeast, it's been incredible. You go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and you're getting decent crowds, and then you go to Mississippi, places that I've never been, and I knew nothing about. And you hear some stuff, you hear, bad things, and a lot of these cities get a lot of bad reputation. But when I've gone into these cities and play and represented, I've had nothing but good things to say. I've met some amazing people in Baton Rouge and Mississippi, and when I played for Bria. And Tampa, when I played for VSI there my first year. Charlotte was a little bit different with it being a missionary. And so that was a very unique environment in itself. And I learned a lot there. Then when I went to the St. Louis, that kind of was an eye opener for me to see a second division club, being so well supported. The St. Hooligans, they would come out and they'll pack the stadium out every single week. They'll wave flags, they'll beat drums, they'll heckle the opponent. And they were there in the snow, they were there in the heat, they were there in all elements. So it was a very good experience there. And then obviously in OKC, similar setup there, to then come back to the Southeast, and then being in Chattanooga, a place that I've been hearing about for several years, and that I've seen on TV, especially when they got the 18,500. Just knowing that, man, this is, for an amateur team to be getting that crowd is unbelievable. But then to come in and to feel it, and to be a part of it is I mean, words can't explain. So it's I think when you come in, you realize that this is a soccer city. This is a soccer city, and the fans, they come and they support you through thick and thin. They know the game, they know their stuff, right? They know when you don't play well. They know when you escape by the skin of the teeth, and so it's a good city to be in, because it just continues to grow, and the fans, they continue to push the envelope as well, which we appreciate.
Yeah, and the reason I brought all that up is because you get it. You get what Chattanooga is. You know what it means to everyone there from the time that you've spent there as a player, and now you're there as the head coach. Capital H, capital C. Not it's not predicate, but the beginning. There's no adjective up front to explain anything else. How long did it take you to become you as a coach? Because I know how you were as a player, but formulate who you are as a coach, or is that still a work in progress, trying to figure out who you are and how you want to present things and your style specifically on the touchline?
Yeah, I think I try to be. It's a work in progress, I would say. It's a difficult league to play in, the MLS Next Pro, because you're playing against really talented young professionals. You're playing against 17 and 18-year-olds that are going to be in the MLS in a year or two. They're representing their youth national teams. They're going to be full national team players in a couple of years, and so it's a difficult league whenever you set up for one thing and you can show up on the weekend and you're playing against 5 first team players as well. And so I think continuing to establish and build our identity is important, but also being a little bit pragmatic in the way that we approach games. And so I would say, if I were to consider my playing style and my philosophy, 18 months ago, I'm possession orientated. I want to dominate possession of the ball. I want to press high. I want to regain possession quickly, and I want to keep the ball in the attacking third, and create chances. Whereas now you realize you play in a league that, most of these players, they've been in the youth system, they've been in the academies for several years, and they've been playing with each other for several years as well. And these clubs, they don't change their model, and they don't change for anybody. So these clubs, they keep getting better and better and better, which is really good. But we don't have that luxury. We have players that they come in for a year or maybe 2 years, 3 years if guys are lucky. And so you're always having to reshape and refine your model and how you approach the game and how you approach each weekend. So I would say for me as a person, I've evolved a lot. I try to be consistent. I try to be honest with myself. I try to be honest with the people that I work with every single day. I try to take feedback and implement it if I think it makes sense. And I'll say I'll continue to do that as a coach as well. I learn a lot from our guys here, the young ones, the older ones, the guys that have been around, the guys that are new to the club. And so I think it's just a good way to approach things, because like we know, football is mainly subjective, right? It's how you feel and how you see the game. Some people think possession is the right way to play. Some people think you can, it's direct. I think it all works. It's just, what is the problem that we're going to try to solve on the weekend, and we go from there.
Another couple of minutes here with Richard Dixon, who is head coach Chattanooga FC here at MLS Next Pro. I do have a weekend preview question coming up, because you got a big rivalry game coming up, and we'll be up there to broadcast that this weekend. I always like to ask this of new coaches. When you have a question about something, and it could be something logistics, it could be day-to-day operations, it could be how you view yourself on the touchline or on the practice pitch. When you have a question about being a coach, who is on your speed dial that you can sit there and know they'll pick up if you've got a question that it's really bugging the you-know-what out of you? Who can pick up that phone? Who's on your speed dial for you?
Yeah, that's a really good one. I've the last few months, I would say the last 12 months, I've had a lot of phone calls with Jeremy Allenbaugh, he's the president of the USL.
Mm-hmm.
He was also our general manager here, and I spent a good amount of time with him in St. Louis. So he's well experienced. He's been in different domains in soccer, as a coach, as a general manager, and now the president of USL. So he's very knowledgeable and gives me good advice. So I would say if I were to consider, a holistic approach, somebody that knows about, again, logistics and coaching and everything, it would be him. And the next would be Coach Elliott. He's a mentor of mine. He's very close to me. Obviously, has a lot of ties here as well. So I would say those are the two that would be at the top of my list.
What have you learned about yourself in this process this season as a coach for Chattanooga FC? What have you learned about yourself? Anything that you didn't know or that was reinforced?
Yeah, I would say that it's helpful to be calm and zoom out. I try to see the full picture before I make decisions, and I think that has helped a lot with how chaotic things have been this year. To go from that transition in the preseason to taking over, an entire team and staff and everything. The big thing for me was just to zoom out to see what were the problem areas and what are the areas that we needed to prioritize right away. And then I think once you do that, you can make more informed decisions. And so, yeah, it's something that I've always done my entire life, and I found that being more intentional with it this year has been extremely helpful for me.
All right, this weekend it is a knockdown, drag-out rivalry matchup with Atlanta United 2. And every time these two teams pair up at Fort Finley, it is half past beyond crazy. Something's going to happen. Something's going to go down. What has study hall been like getting ready for this one, knowing that Friday you knocked off Inter Miami down there at the Erector Set, you came back home? What's study hall like getting ready for this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because we obviously played them a few weeks ago. Like you said, it was a crazy game. We're up 3-0, conceded 4 in a row, and then came back in the dying minutes to tie the game and won the shootout. I think we walked away from that game not knowing how to feel. Blew a 3-0 lead. We scored 2 own goals. But the guys did a very good job of fighting to the death to come back and tie the game and win the shootout. So there's a lot of positives there, but a lot of concerns as well. So for us, we're just focused on the details, on the things that cost us trouble down there, looking into their last few games to see how they have shifted and adjusted, and just making sure that we're ready for those things, but also making sure that we continue to progress our standards and our style of play here. The guys, I think they're in a really good place. They understand how we want to attack, how we want to defend. So, yeah, it's just refining things and focusing on the details of how we're going to approach Atlanta United this weekend.
7:03 kick at Fort Finley Saturday night. Well, we'll obviously be up there with that one for the broadcast on the 2 side of things. It's always great to see you, my friend, and congratulations on head coach Chattanooga FC. Richard, we'll see you this weekend. Thanks for always dropping by early in the morning here on the morning show.
Excellent, John. Thank you so much. Talk soon.
You got it. There he goes. And, see, he's off and running. He's going to go, to practice and stuff. He's done. He's hanging out with us, and he's off and running. So there you go. Richie Dixon was the interim. Now he is the actual head coach for Chattanooga FC. Thanks to Hayes Creech for flipping that one around, too, considering their press conference was yesterday afternoon, and now he is off and running to be he's going to do his head coaching things. But, yes, we'll be up there for that matchup. Don't know quite yet how many of us, but we'll be up there. Broadcast 6:30 pregame, 7:03 kick at Fort Finley. Chattanooga FC hosting Atlanta United 2. Big matchup in the Eastern Conference. Frankly, they're all big. 8 matches to go in the regular season, if my math is correct. And right now, Chattanooga's second in the Eastern Conference at 40 points. Atlanta has a match in hand on them and Orlando City B. 10-6-4 Atlanta United 2. They have one of the higher goal differences in the league. But right now it'll be a matchup of number 2 versus number 6 Eastern Conference, Richard Dixon. And I'm just so used to calling him Richie. Richard Dixon, the head coach at Chattanooga FC. Thanks for dropping by and dropping that knowledge on us right now. Crown Legacy at 43 points. Chattanooga FC at 40. 10-5-6-4. Revs 2 at 39 points. Even number of matches with Crew 2. They have a superior goal difference. Orlando City B's at 35 and 5th. Atlanta United 2 is at 34 points in 6th, and they have a better goal difference than Connecticut United, who's really caught fire recently, last month or so. Connecticut United, first-year franchise. They've done really well after stumbling out of the gate. 8 right now is Chicago Fire FC 2. They're at 33 points. Red Bulls 2 at 32. They are below the playoff bar. So literally you have 5 through 10, 6 teams separated by 5 points to either stay in or try to get into the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference. NYCFC 2 is at 30 points. They're in 10th. Huntsville City Football Club is 11th at 28. Union 2 at 27. Toronto FC 2 at 25. Core are at 23 points. They're in 14th. FC Cincinnati 2 is at 16 points at 4-14, 2-2. And Inter Miami CF2, 8 points through their first 19 matches, 1-14, 4-1. That's the Eastern Conference. But, yes, once again, Atlanta United 2 goes on the road to Fort Finley. The games have been chaotic. Remember what happened last time up at Turner. It was 3-0 lead. Atlanta United 2 storms back to go to 4-3. Score literally at the death to tie it at 4 and then come away with the extra point. So that's part of the large Saturday, by the way. So Saturday has now turned into the day this week for MLS Next Pro and their activity. So that's your rundown of all of that. Technically, I guess all of that was opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Starting your day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil, Guatemala, heavy-bodied notes of walnut, semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff, powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com from the Kaiser Permanente Studios here in Atlanta. Thanks to Margaret Fleming, who's off to Two Penn Plaza to see how Larry Berg will receive his first audience as soon-to-be commissioner of Major League Soccer, and Richard Dixon, who is now off to training and getting ready for everything with Chattanooga FC as they get ready for Atlanta United 2. Okay, the rundown for the rest of the show is as follows. Top of the hour, Kacey White's going to join us. Kacey D is going to break down what she saw in some teams in the Western Conference. She's spending a lot of time in the Western Conference with Christian Miles this year. They were in Kansas City for Sporting in Houston. We're going to go over some things. We're going to have her break out her whiteboard, pardon the pun. And there were a couple of moments in the highlights that I wanted to go over with her, specifically about defending and spacing and all of that. And then we'll get into Leagues Cup. Leagues Cup starts tonight. So we'll look at all the matchups, look at the juice boxes, and we'll compare, contrast, and we'll let you know who's doing what and where. 6 matchups tonight, if my math is correct. It is 6 matchups tonight, and this will kind of be what we follow through with our ongoing thread here in the competition. It'll be another 6 tomorrow. It'll be another 6 on Thursday. It will be 5 on Friday, 6 on Saturday, and 8 on Sunday to wrap up the week. So that is where MLS is this week. It is all Leagues Cup all the time. But we'll go over all of the matchups after KCD. And then at the end of the program, we caught up with Santiago Lopez, the head coach at El Farolito in the NPSL. They are now back-to-back champions in NPSL. And their story is incredible. And this will be part 1 of 2 with Coach Lopez. We're going to catch back up with him after you hear the interview this week. You'll understand why, because there was a lot of stuff left on the table. And next week, we're going to catch up with him to ask about being an amateur club. And that's what they are. They're an amateur club. They have no real aspiration or pathway to be professional. And how do you function as an amateur club, still having goals and aspirations, and trying to basically manage the business side of things? And that's the other part of this, is that they are, it's tied to a restaurant chain, a Mexican restaurant chain in the San Francisco area. How do you navigate a business, and how do you navigate what you want to do in trying to grow the game of soccer in Northern California? And as a byproduct of that, when you have some upsets in Open Cup and everybody sits there and goes, what is this with the NPSL? What is this club? And then you win the NPSL, and you go and you win other adult championships as well. They were juggling 2 championships at the same time this year, 2 championship runs. They won them both. So we caught up with Coach Lopez in his car yesterday, and so we're going to catch up with him again in the office next week to find out about the growth of his club and trying to do 19 things at once, still maintain your amateur status and have the successes that you are when it comes to players and hopefully having those players in professional careers or going to college or what have you. And it's just an interesting three-dimensional approach with El Farolito, and they won 2 championships in about a week's time last couple of weeks. So we'll catch up with Santiago Lopez after our Leagues Cup preview and after we get through with the rest of the stuff in the day, transfer news, all that kind of stuff. And so that'll be hour number 2. Let's get into the news and let you know what's going on, what you might have missed. Morning, Abby. Morning, Michael Head. All right. So looking out at all of the news, and let's see. Oh, okay, cool. Let's see. How about I do this? I've got to do, hang on just a second. I know this is really going to be, let's see. So I know this is going to be incredibly amazing live radio. Let's see. All right. So, all right. No. Because I'm trying to secure another guest. And it's about a deeper dive topic that we need to get into in Major League Soccer. So, all right. So that hopefully took care of that. All right. News that we need to know about before heading into all of the other stuff. All right. We do have to get into what's been going on involving FIFA and their latest. While we were sleeping, it was a note from Matt Hughes and Nick Ames at The Guardian. A number of CONCACAF countries are considering following Europe's lead by formally removing their support for FIFA President Gianni Infantino. All 41 members of CONCACAF understood to have submitted letters of endorsement for the re-election campaign before the World Cup, but many are now giving serious consideration to withdrawing them. Finland became the first of the 211 member associations to publicly withdraw its letter of support last Thursday, followed by Wales, whose chair Laura McAllister had proposed the World Cup boycott at an emergency UEFA meeting last week, while the FA is also understood to have written FIFA withholding their backing for Infantino. CONCACAF held an emergency meeting last Friday with a source who attended, telling The Guardian that all members are strongly aligned with UEFA, which has led the calls for Infantino to go. The meeting is understood to have featured pledges from several countries to withdraw their backing for Infantino, and some may have already done so in private. One potential difficulty for CONCACAF is the fact that 4 of their members are bidding to stage the 2031 Women's World Cup in the next hosting decision to be taken by FIFA. No other bids currently on the table. The decision still has to be approved by FIFA at an extraordinary general meeting to be held in November. U.S. Soccer Federation, according to The Guardian, understood to be deeply unhappy with Infantino, particularly with the backlash his dealings created for the Fuller and Balogun affair. And another complicating factor is that Victor Montaliani, president of CONCACAF, has widely been touted as a potential candidate most able to take Infantino on in next March's presidential election. Montaliani has yet to decide whether he wants to stand and told The Guardian in an interview last month that his priority is being reelected as president of CONCACAF, whose elections will also take place next year. Asian Football Confederation, also backed the UEFA-led opposition, appears to have splintered. Significantly, the financial powerhouses Qatar and UAE have both publicly backed Infantino to stay on, as have smaller countries such as Sri Lanka, Lebanon, Kuwait, and Bhutan. While most of the AFC 47 members, including Saudi Arabia, have stayed silent, UEFA is hoping it can attract their support, but it remains unclear whether the numbers are there to force a genuine electoral contest. New Zealand Football's Andrew Pragnell says that FIFA's abandoned private equity proposal delivered a shock to confidence in world football governance, urged Oceania's members to be united on the question of Infantino's leadership. Oceania's confederation, which has New Zealand among its 11 members, has yet to take a position, although Pragnall admitted there has been, quote, enormous gains for football associations outside the traditional powerhouses. But the proposal itself, the way in which it was delivered, developed, the way members found out, and the shock to confidence amongst the international football system has cast a pretty big shadow. Pragnall added New Zealand would consult with Oceania members and other regional confederations before adopting a position, and said it would be preferable for member nations to be aligned on the matter. Let's see. Also, there was another element in this that I needed to get into. I'm trying to find out in which 98 emails were attached to it. And I'm trying to see if I can find it. Of course, I can't. But right now, this was the other thing from The Athletic. So the monies that were promised in this hemisphere from the World Cup, this is from Adam Crafton as of about 7:45 this morning. Host cities for the 26 World Cup are wanting the millions of dollars they believe they were promised by FIFA and have so far gone unpaid. Before the Club World Cup in 25, FIFA President Gianni Infantino announced that FIFA would make a contribution of $1 million to each of the 11 cities across the country who are hosting matches during the club tournament, described as a legacy contribution in quotation marks. Said the funds would be used to build many pitches and support social projects. After the announcement, U.S. cities scheduled to host the games in 26 asked if they would receive the same $1 million contribution for the more substantial and costly role of the World Cup. According to 4 executives at U.S. host city committees, all of whom asked to remain anonymous to protect relationships, FIFA management repeatedly assured the cities they would receive the same $1 million contribution towards legacy, despite no public statement ever being made by the organization. The 4 executives interviewed by The Athletic said the promise was made verbally by members of FIFA's senior management, reiterated to cities in meetings, but it has not been paid, meaning several cities are now asking FIFA staff for updates on the payments. 2 host city execs told The Athletic they found it difficult to understand how FIFA would be stalling or being non-committal on these relatively minor payments to cities who subsidize their tournament and helped FIFA maximize returns. FIFA's operating budget for the tournament was around $2.7 billion. So that was also brought out this morning as well. And I think, was that the last thing? I think it was. I believe it was. Okay, so that's the update on that front this morning. Other stuff that we need to know and kind of just have in our hip pocket one way or the other. Thiago Almada's transfer down to 2 clubs, River Plate and Flamengo. And right now, Flamengo's sporting director, Jose Boto, flew to Buenos Aires himself to meet with Almada's reps. And he said it was a boundary, basically. Quote, I didn't go to Argentina to convince Almada because it would be stupid on Almada's part if I had to convince him. And this is from our friends at GE Globo. Played 6 months in Brazil, knows Flamengo's greatness. Added Flamengo will not enter into a bidding war. River Plate, apparently they are deep into personal terms when it comes to agreeing on the contract. He was in the stands for River's loss to Rosario Central. Neither club has a deal yet with Atletico de Madrid, who signed Almada last June for 21 million euros for half of his pass. And Botafogo now want to recoup close to that figure as they move on from him. The numbers that had been posted last week late were around 20. And so obviously with folks in front of him on the depth chart at Atleti, Kangan Lee, Alex Grimaldo, Martin Schulman, minutes aren't there. Flamengo wanted to have Almada in place before the round of 16 Copa Libertadores. And now you got about a month before Spain's transfer window closes. And now you're trying to get things done by that month. Another couple of things here to keep an eye on. Major League Soccer said they are investigating reported anti-Semitic and discriminatory language directed at Revolution forward Dor Turgeman during the draw in Montreal. Rev said that Turgeman was subjected to verbal abuse. After scoring in the 35th minute, club immediately reported the incident to the league. Montreal said they are cooperating, and the Revs will take necessary action along with Major League Soccer. It has been floated out there what was allegedly said. If it was in fact said, those folks, when they are found out, have no business being inside a building to watch the sport ever again. I know that when I always say stuff like that, the biggest thing for me is enforcement. But that has no place. That has no place. Zero place, none. if what is being reported was in fact what was said, those individuals, that individual or individuals who said that, have no place inside a gate to watch the sport ever again. And they also ought to be brought up on the appropriate charges inside Quebec province too. Hate speech, take your pick. Fullest extent of the law, if what was reported is what was said. So we'll keep an eye on that. Once again, Leagues Cup, once again across the border for the first time. Playing on Mexican soil in Vancouver and Dallas and San Diego FC. San Diego FC! Playing across in Mexico for the first time. Very, very cool. The Galaxy and Chucky Lozano. Keep an eye on this. Chucky Lozano might be a loan deal from San Diego FC to Los Angeles Galaxy. Hasn't featured for San Diego all season. Moved him out of their plans to be a part of anything. Ask, you can ask Tyler Heaps and you can ask Mikey Veras. Basically, Chucky Lozano is an unperson in San Diego. And it looks like he might get loaned to LAG. They need help offensively. Greg Vanney would probably be one of the individuals that could handle and navigate what's going on there. You don't have Gabriel Peck. Now you're trying to figure out who that catalyst can be offensively. Could it be Chucky Lozano? Keep an eye on that. There was stuff floated out there yesterday that Messi and friends were chasing after. Well, first off, a couple days ago, it was listed that they were chasing after Juan Fer, and now it was listed yesterday that they're chasing after Kevin De Bruyne. Club source confirmed yesterday that no, that is not happening, meaning De Bruyne. Focusing on their current roster, added Casemiro once again on a free through Leagues Cup and the stretch run. Second right now in Major League Soccer in points. We're going to chase this story too in the lower divisions. We'll catch up with Kaylor Hodges tonight and ask him about it. Portland Hearts of Pine unveiled plans for basically a 10,000-seater at Cassidy Point, a former coal storage site along the Fore River in Portland, Maine. Privately funded project expected to cost more than $50 million. Construction starting next year, opening targeted for 29. And they have sold out every home match they've had so far since they began play back in 2025. So that is very cool to get that. I believe there's a press conference this morning, as a matter of fact, and we'll try to effort stuff out of Portland, Maine on that, on the growth of P-Hop in League One. But we're going to talk to Kaylor Hodges tonight on tape. You'll hear that tomorrow on the network along with Dylan Butler. And we'll break down what's going on in the lower divisions. We're going to talk about Oakland and that mess. We're going to talk about Portland, and they're not a mess. And that's Kaylor Hodges tonight. You'll hear that tomorrow on the network alongside Dylan Butler from MLSsoccer.com. And I imagine that Dylan is probably going to have an early night and a late night dealing with Leagues Cup over the next little bit. And El Mexicano is now a backup kit partner. We've seen other folks, and I'll bring those up in a sec. Mexicano brand has signed a multi-year partnership with LAFC, becoming their first ever backup kit jersey sponsor. LAFC Golden Boot Club of Partners, fan activations at BMO Marquez Brothers International, which owns El Mexicano, owns a multi-year partnership with the Mexican national team. So keep an eye out for all that. So that is kind of your news and notes and things to look at this morning. I'm gonna peel through the papers really quickly to see if I've missed anything going in, and then we'll circle back and get into the gossip, rumor, and innuendo before Kacey White joins us in about 6 minutes. Charlton Athletic is up for sale again. U.S. owners are looking to cash in after 3 years. The Stavely Consortium at West Ham is set to buy the Gold family's 25.1% stake. And so that is going on in the Premier League. Chelsea have sold Trevor Chalobah to Como and completed the signing of Jordan Henderson. So we'll get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo while we're here. Why don't we go ahead and do that? So we'll do that. We'll catch up with Kacey for 20 or 25 minutes or so, and then you get to catch up with Santiago Lopez from the NPSL, and all of the other stuff that we have going on this morning. So we got to get into Leagues Cup 2. Gio Reyna, official, joining Strasbourg. Marc-Andre ter Stegen has joined Ajax on loan from Barcelona. That is officially official too. Also, your rumors for the morning. Fenerbahce ready to make an ambitious move to sign Manchester United forward Marcus Rashford, according to the three-letter paper. Barca boss Hansi Flick admitted he'd miss him when it was announced he wouldn't join the club permanently. Not looking to keep hold of him. He's now on a three-man shortlist for a Turkish Super League club alongside AC Milan's Rafa Leao and Ismail Assar. So Fenerbahce, keep an eye on Marcus Rashford. Barca monitoring the progress between Manchester City and Real Madrid over the signing of Rodri, according to AS. Los Blancos still the front runners. City demands for a fee of at least 60 million euro. And they ain't too keen on that, which means that Barcelona could go in and try and grab pole position on that one. AS suggesting in another report Rodri's only interested in joining Madrid if he leaves the Etihad. City have a replacement planned already. Florian Plettenberg, Sky Germany, reporting that they've reached a full agreement with 18-year-old Lille midfielder Ayoub Bouadi on personal terms. Negotiations with Lille over a fee of around 70 million euro for Bouadi's move ongoing after he caught a lot of folks' eyes with his performance in Morocco in the World Cup. City's in pole position to sign. Talks have started between Liverpool and PSG regarding Bradley Barcola, according to Fabrizio Romano. Reds have made an official offer to sign the France international worth over 100 million euro. Talks will continue, with the initial attempt falling short of Le Parisien's demand of 150. Wants to make the move to Liverpool. Florian Plettenberg adds Barcola as Liverpool's top option. Personal terms not an issue. PSG want to speed up negotiations to complete the signing of Barca forward Ferran Torres, according to Matteo Moretto. The Ligue 1 club aiming to close a deal with the Blaugrana, optimistic a 55 million euro deal for the 26-year-old could be closed quickly. ESPN, Real Madrid have made an improved contract offer to Vinicius Jr. Arsenal, we know they're chasing as well. Growing speculation over his future in recent weeks. Current deal set to expire in June of 27. Madrid have now offered Vinicius a contract worth 22 million euro a year. The gap is still significant. Vinicius Jr. is demanding 30. Gonzalo Garcia has joined Fulham from Real Madrid. The 22-year-old's moved for West London on a 5-year deal through 2031 with a club option to extend a year, deal worth 40 million euro. Jordan Henderson completed the move to Chelsea after leaving Brentford on a free. It's a 2-year deal at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea want to send Mykhailo Mudryk on loan to Strasbourg, despite the expectation he would join a Premier League club after his recent ban. That's from Foot Mercato. Internazionale have reached an agreement with Spurs to sign Cuti Romero for around 40 million euro. They now need to reach a deal with the player. That's from Gazzetta. 4-letter paper, Nottingham Forest attacking midfielder Morgan Gibbs-White considered a target for Bayern Munich. Chelsea is interested. Corriere dello Sport, PSG could sign Zion Suzuki from Parma and loan him to Juve. Philipp Heinz, Leipzig's preferred option for their attack is Hoffenheim's Fisnik Aslani, whose signing would be viewed independent of Yan Diamande's possible departure. Team Talk, Chelsea reached an agreement with Rayo Vallecano for Pep Chavarria, who's been given permission to travel to London for a medical. 3-letter paper, Arsenal hoping to complete the signing of 18-year-old Blackburn Rovers striker Igor Tyjon. Corriere dello Sport, Real Madrid winger Franco Mastantuono make a decision about whether he wants to join AC Milan or Fiorentina on loan. 3-letter paper, Villa preparing a 35 million euro offer to sign Barca midfielder Marc Bernal. Internazionale reignited their interest in Juve winger Nico Gonzalez. Al Ittihad's Moussa Diaby is still a strong contender. That's from Sky Italia. They also say Moise Kean is Como's priority for their attack. Fiorentina intent on keeping him. Fabrizio Romano, speaking of Como, once again, the Trevor Chalobah deal. Verbal was announced earlier this morning, 30 million euro plus 6 in add-ons, a clause that will see the Blues get a sell on any future move. Nicola Shira, positive talks between Cagliari and Atalanta over a loan for Daniel Maldini that will include an option to make the deal permanent. Team Talk, Everton confident of signing Celtic right back Alistair Johnston, who is eager to make the step up to the Premier League. That's the gossip, rumor, and innuendo as we know it. And it's Tuesday at 10 as we all catch our breath to a bit, because it's also now time for the hydration break, brought to us by our friends at local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor stores, 2 locations, and we bring in Kacey D. Now, do you wish to join in the hydration break? Are you properly hydrated?
I'm hydrating with my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
Incoherent. Thank you for asking.
Same.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Couple of things I wanted to get into this morning with you. It's good to have you in one location. I know you like the globe-trotting aspect of everything and catching up with you in hotels, but to have your feet firmly planted inside the casa, I'm sure is a plus.
Yes, for a few weeks at least.
Whoa. All right. So I want to get into Sporting Kansas City and Houston. I want to get into that matchup because there were a couple of things that I picked up, and this would be where we get out your whiteboard. Hashtag. This is where we get out the hashtag, pun whiteboard. Because I noticed some things on tape and in your call that I wanted to kind of break down in the two goals. I also wanted to kind of get your thoughts on Leagues Cup. And there was the Jenna Niswanger transfer, just the fact that it's a six-figure transfer on the NWSL. I wanted to kind of get into that a little bit. It's just kind of like newsy notes and headlining things. And there was something out of Como that I thought was really interesting having to do with their season ticket holders. And I didn't know if you had seen that.
You get to inform me. So let's we can get into that too, but it'll be hot off the press for me.
Okay. But that'll be kind of toward the end because it's kind of newsy and stuff. You and Christian were at Sporting in Houston, and looking at that one from 30,000 feet going in, Sporting Kansas City's sporting director, David Lee, at the beginning of this season, I mean, there were points in training camp where they didn't have a full roster. I mean, literally it was like 18 dudes. And he said, I want to bring in like a dozen guys. And he probably, if he could bring in all of North Dakota to help out with the rosters, he would probably do that. Houston, you and Christian seem to be the Dynamo broadcasting network so far this year. So you've gotten your
true.
You got your fill on Guilherme and everybody there that has come to the fore. Now that the game is over and you've had a chance to kind of digest it a little bit, what sticks in your mind from what you saw in Sporting and in Houston?
Well, first of all, 2 weeks in a row, we've gotten a red card that completely changed the game. We can get into that later, but I had to say that because there is just such a difference from what we saw before the red card and after the red card. In this particular matchup, Sporting Kansas City actually started quite brightly. Defensive reinforcements is what they needed and what they had brought in, and it was showing in the first half. So it was quite even back and forth, and then all of a sudden that red card happens and it really changes the trajectory of the game.
Yeah, kind of sounds familiar with what happened with Atlanta. And yeah. So
a lot of places, you're right.
Yeah, except the one with Atlanta happened in the 27th, and we're all raising the people's eyebrow at Alan Chapman for his iniquity of calls. All right, I want to get into goal number one. I'm going to play goal number one, and it's what you mentioned at the end of the call that until I saw the replay and we had a really good angle of it. This is the whiteboard element number one. First goal on the board, Guilherme, Apple TV, and Major League Soccer. You'll recognize the voices.
Another one of those pacey players. One time was clocked as the second fastest in Major League Soccer. Here's McGlynn now opens up. This could be their moment. It's Guilherme! Ask and you shall receive. The brilliant Brazilian strikes again.
This cut here, what that does is it creates a 1v1. Watch the top of your screen with the run around. When you run around a player, you allow Guilherme to have space because Jake Davis, number 8, the defender's thinking, do I stay with the player or do I go with the runner? That's the half yard of space that Guilherme needs to cut inside. Then he brings the technique, he brings the flair.
Now, it was the point that you made at the end about Jake Davis. And when they go in the highlight cut to the behind the goal shot and you see Jake Davis bite and take a step to his right on the runner, and he finds himself in like uh-oh land because he looks to his right, he takes that step, and then he realizes that he's given Guilherme some space, and it was too much space by the end of it. I thought that was really interesting to see Jake make the decision to open up space, and it creates the goal.
From a youth development perspective, coaches always talk about the run has to come before the pass. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But one of the reasons is that you force defenders into making decisions. And the bite that you talk about, the lean, is all that a player like Guilherme needs is that lean. He can figure out how to bend a shot around a defender's foot without the lean. So when that lean goes because of the overlapping run, then you see that Guilherme has even more time to be able to pick out his corner, to have that. So that 2v1 that could have been created and would have been a viable option really allowed for everything. There was a lot of really nice elements of this goal from the very beginning to that run and the finish at the end.
And I'm sure that if you look at John Pulskamp, he's probably still cursing under his breath. I think he thinks he should have had that one.
I agree. I think that the save should have happened. And it was actually Cleveland in goal.
Stephen Cleveland. Yeah, you got it. There we
go. So I'm only doing that for John Pulskamp, even though I don't know him, just to say that. But Stephen Cleveland was in goal. Later in the broadcast, Christian and I actually talked about that a little bit, that all of the buildup, the repress by Bouzat, the shifty footwork from Jack McGlynn, the run, the finish, all of it was great. However, it could have been saved. And that had to be addressed at some point. There was just so many good elements in the goal call that we were like, okay, in the goal call, we're not going to call out the goalkeeper on this, but let's talk about that in a little bit, that this probably could have been saved.
Yeah, he was punching the ground. Stefan was not a happy man with what he was not able to do. Okay, so then red card, second goal. Second goal, once again, and to set this up, you're trying to get a build out of the back, and Sporting is trying to get some quick passes working forward, and Stephen Cleveland finds Calvin Harris, and in a situation where you're trying to navigate out of the back, you've got to make sure that every contact is solid, and Calvin Harris's contact was not. Here's how goal 2 happened. Apple TV, MLS, Christian, and KCD.
They restore lost pride. It's the Dynamo outfit, Kacey, that they're really going to punish right here. Bouzat just does that. Catastrophic error, and Bouzat punishes for Houston.
A critical mistake from Calvin Harris. Watch in the middle of your screen. In the build, he's going to come into this area. There's nothing wrong with this, but he goes in the one-touch back, does not realize that Bouzat is there. You have to take inventory of where your players are, what the press has been, the game, but the problem is Harris plays in the wide channels normally, so hasn't faced the press that Houston Dynamo shows. He gives it right to Bouzat.
Okay, and I thought that was another interesting point too, is that Calvin Harris is used to playing wider spaces. Calvin Harris is right down Main Street. He gets the pass from Cleveland, and there wasn't enough weight on the return, and he was surrounded first, and then the pass back to Cleveland put everything in no man's land, and it was a slam dunk.
The technical error, of course, has to be addressed. That's the obvious piece, is that he kind of chops at the ball. It hits the underside of his cleat and goes right to Bouzat. He has pressure, so you have to absorb pressure. He probably should take a touch, or if you're going to one-touch it, you bounce it out into the wide channel, because if anything goes wrong, everyone immediately narrows and can make up for that mistake. What he does is he goes that first-time ball back. Anytime you're in the build, you're in your biggest shape that you're going to be in. So any type of turnover right in that center channel is catastrophic, as Christian said. And Bouzat actually had a nice finish. Cleveland, I thought, cut down the angle as well as he could. Nothing he could do in that moment. But it speaks to how Sporting Kansas City wants to play. They want to be fluid. They want to move. But we've really never seen Calvin Harris get into the 6, into the defensive midfield position. So that was a little bit rare that we were seeing him come into there, and it really hurt them. And it was tough, honestly, John, because the first half for Sporting Kansas City, everything that had gone wrong versus LAFC, they were doing well. They were repressing well. Their rest defense behind the ball was good. Their center backs were stepping into space defensively. It looked like a really even game. So it just completely changed in the second half.
Yep, right now, Sporting at the bottom of the West with 14 points after 18, 4-12-2. They've given up 46, and a lot of that, I think, is front-loaded to the beginning of the season where they were giving it up in bunches. And you're sitting there going, man, what has Rafa Vicky gotten himself into? And, he's probably sitting there and he's going, okay, so what's the size of that beverage I can take with me on the way home? Now that they've gotten a little used to Rafa Vicky, 11-man Sporting Kansas City. What have you seen?
I believe that they're a lot more stable than they've shown. When this red card happened, honestly, John, it was like, what more can go wrong right now? Like, can they catch a break? Because of how the first 45 looked. I don't claim to not be an optimistic person. I definitely am. So I'm always a little bit of a glass half full person, analyst, however you want to look at it. But I actually do believe that they showed some really nice signs bouncing back from LAFC into this game to solve the issues with Moises Mosquera going into the center back role next to Blorian. 3 changes on the back line, which is incredibly hard to find your unit work quickly, but they did. The problem is there's that mental lapse of I'm on a yellow card and I'm going to fly in on this tackle on a second yellow right before half when everything has actually gone well. Anytime you talk to other coaches, they talk about Joveljic. They talk about the interchange in midfield and how the attacking group of Sporting Kansas City causes problems for teams. It does, but they give up too many goals. And that was being addressed in this game until the red card. And it's just almost impossible to hold off a team like Houston. Not that they score a ton of goals, but they're incredibly efficient. And thank goodness Guilherme got the all-star nod, because I would have been up in arms if he did it. I was like, come on, this guy, what else does he have to do? But a team that's efficient like that, and that seems like they don't really get rattled if they're not scoring, they eventually found that breakthrough.
Houston right now, they're in that chase group. You've got the group at the top of the Western Conference, 3 teams, 34, 34, and 33, Vancouver, LAFC, and San Jose. Houston's at the top of that chase group. Right now, they're in 4th at 9-6-2 after 17 matches. And it seems like all of the turnover and all of the acquisitions and the unhappiness of Ben Olsen having folks jettisoned, and apparently he wasn't told, that seems to have been at least papered over here in the midterm, 17 matches in. And right now you're in that final, you're the top 4, you're 4th right now in the West.
We've been a bit of a fly on the wall with this Houston Dynamo team, and have had a lot of conversations with Ben Olsen throughout the year. And one thing I always appreciate about him is how honest he is about himself, his team, the league, the status of where they're at, all of it. And so we've had that front row seat in a lot of ways. The major turning point for Houston was mid-April. I believe it was the 17th or 18th of April. I can't remember the exact date, where they played Orlando City. And Christian and I were on that game. And right before that game, they were leaking goals. They gave up 6 goals to Colorado just prior, a week or 2 prior. And Ben just said, something has to change. He wouldn't really tell us what tactically he was going to change going into that game, but we saw it. He went into a 4-back system. He figured out how to play with 2 blocks of 4 or 4-5-1. He switched it up, and just to make it more difficult to score goals and trust the transition game. It didn't completely work in that game because it was a draw, but they stopped leaking goals. And then from there, they went on one of the best runs we've seen. And so he really started structurally from the back, and then said, okay, our big players have to show up. Now they're trying to get a little more sustained possession with not giving up defensively still. So they're stepping into that. They're growing into that. And it just continues to get better for them.
Yep. That is Whiteboard Chronicles, hashtag. Well, because, Jason would bring out, he has a magnetic board. And so we would call it the Whiteboard Chronicles, because he would sit there and he would look at things and break things down. See, and this is where now with you, we're encouraging you to find that whiteboard or that dry erase board.
I know. Maybe when I'm in Dallas and Austin this week, I got a lot of days on the road without games, but I'm on the road still. Maybe I'll go for a little search. We'll see.
Just just something, maybe the size of a lyre, one of those.
Like, order off Amazon. It's not that hard.
Yeah. So that one of those things where you can sit there and draw and go, see, I made a picture.
I got rid of all of that when I stopped coaching. I did. I had so many tactics boards.
But now that you're in the color seat and you're sitting at the adult table doing analysis, man, like I said, and I will say this to anybody who's listening. The next thing I want to have someone, and especially maybe the folks with Apple or whomever, college or whatever, because shoot, we got college soccer coming up around the corner.
Oh, I know. Are you going to say a telestrator? I think you're going to say
kind of, sort of. What I want is you in a studio with a big video board. And so that way you can break things down using, not necessarily.
We need both. Let's get this rolling. Like we need that. I love that. We did a little bit of that with the ACC championships last year. It was like an in-game telestrator, the iPad, but in studio, it's even easier than when you're on air trying to do it. And sending it back to production and getting it on air. The studio telestration, I would totally geek out on that. So I'm with you.
That's the thing is I'm thinking of like the big 8-foot video board, 8x8. And so that way you can sit there and walk folks through things. And if you don't necessarily have to touch, but at least you can ISO and they can do all the fancy graphics and everything.
Sure.
I think you'd be deadly inside a studio with the big video boards. Anyway, that's my sidebar.
Thank you.
Okay. Now that we've gone through that in the Whiteboard Chronicles, Leagues Cup is coming up. And it starts tonight, and it's like half a dozen matches per. And it's the opportunity for Liga MX and MLS to go up against each other. And in the conversations we've been having about Leagues Cup specifically, it's an opportunity for Major League Soccer to move up the ladder a little bit. Larry Berg is going to be announced as commissioner at noon as a part of the next phase for Major League Soccer. And I think it's really that this is the chase for number 6 or number 5 on a worldwide stage. And Liga MX and Major League Soccer are both trying to climb that ladder. When you look at Leagues Cup, what are you looking forward to the most?
A lot of games. We got really spoiled with the World Cup. So I am excited not only to call a few of these group games. I have 3 games this week with Christian, but to be able to watch a lot of games again and even see more of the Liga MX teams, I think is a lot of fun. So from an analyst perspective and also a fan perspective, just the amount of games that we're about to have in the next week, I think the coaches would disagree with me in the middle of regular season how many games there are. But I think that's always a great time. You make a good point as well of just both leagues, raising their profiles on a global scale and continuing to compete and continuing to showcase. It's great for the fans to be able to see more of the Liga MX teams. And so I'm excited for that. I think it'll be great.
So do you know what games you have in group stage coming up?
I do. I actually get the Texas tour, which I'm a Texan, so I'm excited about that. I'm going to Dallas tonight, and I'll have Dallas Querétaro tomorrow, and then I'll fly to Austin on Wednesday, and then we'll have Austin Tijuana and Austin Puebla.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you get to go to the new Mansfield Stadium in the northeast suburbs.
That's where I'm from. That's the crazy part. So I'm from Arlington. I claim Arlington because that's actually where my address was. But I went to Mansfield schools growing up. So my mom actually drove me by the stadium last time I was there. It was like, look at this. Can you believe there used to be nothing out here? And I couldn't believe it. And then whenever it was, 2 weeks ago, when I was looking at things, I'm like, oh, we're not playing at Frisco. Oh my gosh, it's in Mansfield. So it's pretty nostalgic. I have a couple of high school friends that I think are going to come to the game because they live like 5 minutes from there. So pretty fun.
I mean, that's the fact that you get the the Tejas turnaround when it comes to all these. I mean, but it also goes to speak to how a lot of the communities in and around all the major cities, they dive in full bore because we know what high school football means.
True.
You go to McKinney, you go to Mansfield, you go to Odessa, you go to Denton. It doesn't matter. It's there. So you're going to have these cathedrals, and that's what they are for high school sport.
My mom actually just sent me a box of stuff, and my letter jacket was in there from high school. I might have to wear that next time.
See, now, wait a minute.
Now, I was like Friday Night Lights football, like even though I grew up in the city, like it was big. So sorry to interrupt you, but I had
No, you have to now take that on the trip because when you're there, you've got to wear it for your on cam.
Oh my gosh. That might be a really good idea.
No, but don't tell. I mean, look, we're the only ones that know this right now. And I'm not going to put it out as a part of, hey, Kacey was on our segment. She's going to do this. What you do, you pack it. You don't tell anybody that you've got it, and you just kind of bring it on with the carry-on or whatever you take into the stadium. And then you take the carry-on with you down to the field as you're cutting your stand-up. And then when it comes to the 2-shot, basically just before the reveal, and you and Christian are supposed to tape your 2-shot in the workaround. Put the jacket on just before you do your 2-shot.
Oh my gosh! If we actually get like a camera hit, this will be epic.
And then
I'm definitely going to take it. We'll see how we incorporate it in. But I think you've got some good ideas. I'm kind of excited.
And then also you've got to get the big black cowboy hat. You've got to do that too.
Oh my gosh. I will say I don't own a cowboy hat and I don't own cowboy boots. So I probably should.
It's probably like 9,000 degrees in Mansfield anyway. So the cowboy boots, it might be a little counterintuitive, especially is it a turf surface at Mansfield? Do you know?
That's a really good question. I don't think so. I don't think so. But I'm not 100% sure.
Because I was going to say, if it's like 9,000 degrees on a turf surface and you're wearing cowboy boots in early August, I
might not make the broadcast.
No. So I think if your mom or your friends in Mansfield just got you one of those knockoff cowboy hats and you stashed your Letterman jacket, I think those, especially considering that you and Christian are doing 3 matches in Texas anyway.
Yeah. Oh
and
these patches are like the size of my head on this letter jacket. They're hilarious. Like, I can't believe I wore this for fashion, like at games.
But look, but this is you going home. And so for that little added extra, hey, I'm at home, I'm wearing my jacket. That's honestly, that's this Texas tour for you. See, now I'm jealous because you're going to Austin, and some of the most ridiculous barbecue is down the street from the Arts Center, right on the river.
Crushing barbecue. I'll tell you, I might be like that World Cup fan that was screaming about the beef rib. I'll be so excited to be. All
right. See, now you got me going. The Austin Performing Arts Center. It's right there on the water.
Okay.
And is it the Long? I think it's the Long Center. And right down the street from the Long Center is one of the barbecue joints in the city. And I'll shoot you a text. But anyway, it's one of the places that when I went to Austin, absolutely just crushed it. And it's
so
like the best barbecue in the state. Anyway, we went off the rails. Who knew?
Sorry.
Sorry. Whatever. Okay, so NWSL.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you about 6-figure transfer fees. And Jenna Niswanger apparently is heading over to Europe. And you've got players like Timo Shawinga, who has been lost to WAFCON, but she and her sister are putting Malawi on the stage, and they're still unbeaten through match day 2. I mean, NWSL right now is its own little brand of chaos, but I mean that in the most positive way possible.
I like that the conversations are becoming more interchangeable with our NWSL players and more global. And I don't mean, and then always just for their national team. Now it's the transfers as well and things that are happening. So all of that buzz in different arenas creates even more buzz around women's soccer, around the NWSL. So I love that. And seeing Shawinga go and be able to do that on the national team scale as well, her sister and Barbara Banda's there. I think it's all wonderful that there's just more and more chatter and conversation.
Yep.
And that's what I love. The money piece as well, continuing to grow the investment, bringing players over, not just international players, but bringing our top players back into the league and showing that there's some back and forth because Sam Coffey went from Portland Thorns and now she's over in England with Man City. It's like, will she come back at some point? Because now that money piece is even more there, the investment. So I'm excited to see Jenna Niswanger back in the league. I mean, she is such an incredible player. So I think that'll be great to have her and great for the fans.
Okay, last topic. How many times have you visited Como?
One time.
Okay, so you just went for the one time.
One time, last December.
And the pictures were amazing, and it's out of control. And I should have told you to get like some scarves and stuff and bring them back. Okay, so they qualify for Champions League for the first time ever. Cesc Fabregas is in charge. There is a new rule now. If you're a season ticket holder at Como, your season tickets will be revoked if you fail to attend 4 home matches under a series of new rules that have gotten the fans all bent out of shape. If you miss more than 3, without what it considers a valid reason risk having their season tickets revoked. Another new rule bans fans from wearing the opposing team's shirts or scarves anywhere in the stadium except in the away section. So what do you think about those two rules?
It's the first time I'm hearing this, so this is real reaction. I don't mind the be in the away section if you're wearing the away section's colors. I don't know how you can always police all of that if they buy tickets. So that's going to be interesting, because if you buy a ticket, you buy a ticket. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I understand the logic of like keeping it in the away section, and whether that's just because or for safety or whatever, if people get a little bit rowdy. So that's not something I do think will be easily policed, but maybe it's a best practice they would like. I don't know. Maybe they're just throwing it out there. So that's what I would think, because I don't know how you do that if they buy a ticket. As far as the how many matches you can make, I mean, that's really difficult, because I think you're still talking about the pay. Like if you're a paying customer and you pay for those tickets, they're your tickets. And so I just don't understand how that's going to all be enforced unless they have you sign something that when you buy them, you're willing to abide by that. So will that affect overall season ticket sales because people don't want to agree to that? I think it's interesting, and they're a pretty powerful club right now, and they're doing a lot of really great things, but I'll be interested to see how that plays out.
Yep. And what was it like? Because the stadium in and of itself and where it's positioned, I mean, it is flat gorgeous.
It is.
And when you went over and you got to sit there and go, hey, I'm at Como, take your pictures and everything.
I was over in December and it was still beautiful. It was colder, of course, but it was beautiful right there on the lake. It's obviously a smaller venue, and that shows just like the journey that they're going through. I like that a little bit. Like, I know it comes with, obviously from a business perspective, if you can sell more seats and hosting big games and things like that, there's some challenges, but it's beautiful there. And it's right where you can walk into the city and cobblestone roads, and it's fantastic. And I can't wait to go back. I'm hoping to go back. I got invited to go back this fall, but you got to work. So I got to call games. So we'll see. Maybe when the calendar changes to like the MLS, where I have the summer off, I can go to some preseason games or end of season. We'll see.
Well, you got to tell H to have them come over here.
That is true. That is true. Maybe you and I can work on that. Where are we going to host them?
I mean, seriously. I mean, look with NWSL Atlanta coming online in 28. That's a no-brainer. Bring them over. Well, look, you bring them over and have them go to have them play at Mercedes-Benz or something.
And they've made. I mean, Heather's done an incredible job, with putting a roster together. And to go from where they were in 4th division to Serie B to now Serie A, and figuring out like you have to make the jumps of signing new players. And I'm really excited. I've been on that journey with her behind the scenes of just being a sounding board and chatting with her as her friend, and she's just done an absolutely incredible job there. And so I'm excited to see how that goes this year. It's going to be a huge jump, and that's always difficult, but I'm excited for them.
Serie A Femenil, established in 68. Now you're going to have me go down that rabbit hole when it comes to the pyramid.
No, I switched from the men to the women. Sorry, I transitioned over there.
What? That's fine. I don't care. I mean, it's just all right. So
Heather fan. So wherever Heather goes, I'm a supporter.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So now I'm going to sit there. I'm going to look at her roster and see if there are any American connections, and then go and see what's going on with. We can get interviews and see. We always open up these doors when you show up here. Okay, so remember, pack the Letterman jacket.
Okay.
And see if someone back home can get you a cowboy hat. Because like I said, if you're doing 3 matches in quick succession in Leagues Cup, for you, it's going back home. And you can sit there and, and look the part. And Christian will look at
some combination of all of that needs to happen, like in some way, shape, or form in this week. So I think that would spice some things up a little bit. I'm on it.
Text me when it's going to happen, so that way I can watch it and I can see if I can pull the video. And we'll run that as a part of it. It's always great to see you, my friend. Safe travels, and enjoy Copa Tejas Leagues Cup style. And we'll catch up with you soon. The door's always open. Doesn't have to be now, but it's always now.
Sounds good. Good to talk to you.
All right, there she goes. There goes Kacey D. Where'd she be? She'd be on the road. See, now this is the fun part. I can't wait. Now that we've put this stuff in her head with Kacey, She has to take the Letterman jacket. She has to. And that stand up there in Mansfield, if they're doing the on-camera whip around, or even if they have booth cam, she has to have the Letterman jacket. And then I think maybe for match day 3, then she can, wear the cowboy hat or something like that. And then I'm sure that, what would really be funny is if match day 1 in Mansfield, she wears the Letterman jacket. Match day 2 in Austin, she wears the cowboy hat. Match day 3, Christian wears the cowboy hat. And she looks at him like he's lost his mind. Just programming on camera. That's all we're doing. Okay. It's always great to catch up with Kacey D and find out what's going on with her. So she's got 3 matches in Leagues Cup around the corner. And we'll roll with that. Okay. So that is there is that rundown with all those things. So it's always great to catch up with Kacey D. Orlando Pride have signed forward Gabby Nunez through the end of the 26th season. A Brazilian international joins the Pride through the end of 26. So that just came across from the Pride website. Strasburg confirmed Gio Reyna's joined on a 5-year deal. Okay, Leagues Cup tonight. We'll go through juice boxes and assignments here and let you know what's going on. Coming up around the corner, it is Santiago Lopez, and catching up with him as we did yesterday as El Farolito goes back-to-back in the NPSL. And we find out from him about how difficult it was to manage two teams, not necessarily a first and a second, but 2 separate squads, 2 separate competitions, and win them both. And one of them is back-to-back in the NPSL. Okay. Tonight, when it comes to who's calling what, and there are certain accounts on the 280-character app where we know who is doing what and who is calling what. Let me see if the assignments are out yet for tonight. I don't believe they are as of yet. Yeah, we got the NWSL comms, and that was from the weekend. We do not know what's going on tonight with Leagues Cup yet. But start times and show times for the schedule in Leagues Cup tonight, and it goes through seeding and all this kind of stuff. And so tonight it is Columbus and Atlas at Scott's Miracle Grove Field. 7:45 kick, so that means 7:55, I think, on Apple TV. Columbus and Atlas in Columbus. It is Team 17 hosting Team 32. 7:45 on Apple and FS1 at TQL. That means it's 7:55. That much I do know. Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati at number 6. Pachuca at number 20 at TQL. Apple TV, 8 o'clock Eastern, which means 8:10. It is Charlotte FC and Pumas from the bank in Leagues Cup Phase 1. 8:10 Eastern. That was on Apple TV. 8:40, it is Loons, ranked 13th, and FC Juarez, and this one is at Allianz. 8:40 kick on Apple. The back end of the doubleheader might be 10:10 if it's Tigres and RSL, and this is at America First Field. So Tigres is the home team because they're ranked number 2. RSL is ranked number 30, but in this one, in the League Cup, in this phase, RSL, they are listed as the away team, even though it is in their home venue. Our Jarrett Smith will be there tonight. So I'm thinking 10:10 start because it's the back end of a doubleheader, but don't quote me. And then 10:40, it is Vancouver and Atlante. Now, remember, Atlante purchased, the ownership group for Atlante purchased Monterrey's charter in Liga MX, and that's why Monterrey went away after last season, and Atlante came back in. So initially, this would have been Monterrey at Vancouver, but it is Atlante ranked 34 and Vancouver ranked number 9. That one, once again, Apple TV 10:40 is the start time there. So let's get you into your juice boxes in these particular matchups, and let's see if we can get any kind of participant. So are we calling it U.S.? Are we calling it? No. So we're calling it North and Central America is where we're calling it. So Leagues Cup juice boxes, and they actually do exist. So tonight, Crew at home is a minus 125. Draw with Atlas is a plus 275. And Atlas to win on the road is a plus 320. FC Cincinnati, even money plus 100, hosting Pachuca. Pachuca is a plus 2.25. Your draw is a plus 290. Charlotte FC hosting Pumas is a plus 125. So they're favored on the plus side at home. Draws a plus 270. And Pumas is a plus 188. Loons and FC Juarez. Loons are a minus 132 at home. FC Juarez is a plus 309. And your draw is a plus 290. Tigres is a home team on the road as a dog. Since, once again, this is being played at America First. Tigres is the home team playing RSL, designated. So Tigres on the road is a plus 175. Draws a plus 260. Real Salt Lake is a plus 140. I like the draw option here at the very least, because of Tigres being Tigres, and they're still Tigres. I think that being at America First might sway things a little bit, but I don't think it'll sway it all the way over by comparison. Then your late game with Vancouver Whitecaps and Atlante. It is Vancouver at a minus 400. No real surprise. Atlante being the new club in Liga MX. Atlante is a plus 1,000, and your draw is a plus 475. Now let's find out who is where and who is doing what. Do we have Leagues Cup assignments? That would be assignments. So do we do MLS here technically? So that's a good question. So is it all right? So that's 8-1. So do we have Leagues Cup ref assignments? Oh, sorry, hang on. Leagues Cup. Because I tried to go into the pro website and it didn't give it to me there. So let's see if we have Leagues Cup ref assignments and where they would be. Interesting. So Cup appointments, Crews confirmed, Leagues Cup referees. Interesting. So I don't know. Where would we find these? Maybe if I find them soon, I'll have an answer. But I would have thought that, is it a CONCACAF? Well, would it be a CONCACAF thing? I don't know. That's a good question. How to watch? No. Wow. Okay. So yeah. See, now I'm mad. All right. So Leagues Cup, MLS assignments. USL, MLS back on the 29th. Let's see. So pro. See, this is, yeah. See, now I'm Leagues Cup referee assignments. You see, now it's this. I'm trying to do it this way, and it's not giving it to me. So that's all I want. I just want the referee assignments. Upcoming referee appointments, World Referee. So worldreferee.com would. No, that's not what we're looking for. I don't want La Liga either. No, absolutely not. Home. So I don't want that. See, now this is, we seem to have hit a snag. Yeah, no kidding. You got La Liga assignments. Up. Go away. All right, so competitions, World Cup, Serie A, Bundesliga. So, okay, so you don't want to give me the competitions that you have. So, short of knowing who the La Liga are, short of knowing the La Liga assignments coming up on the 16th in the schedule, World Referee is not giving me anything. So, I have no idea. And when I figure it out when we're off the air, it'll probably take me about 7 minutes. And then it'll be like, oh, okay, so now I know who it is and how we can chase after them. So, anyway. I thought I was going to be able to give you ref assignments, but apparently they're not readily available. All right, well, then so be it. Okay. It is that time where yesterday we caught up with the NPSL champs and Santiago Lopez. And he is carrying on a family tradition with the El Farolito franchise in the NPSL. Amateur club. And there are times when, we'll be looking at them in Open Cup or things like that, and they'll knock off a couple of folks, like beat Sacramento, go a couple of rounds, those kinds of things. And this season, they had 2 teams going at the same time as an amateur club, chasing after 2 separate competitions, winning both of them. And last time, the last one of the 2 was the NPSL championship this past weekend in Bristol, Virginia, knocking off Bristol Rhythm. So we caught up with him. And for those of you watching on the video side, it's going to look a little weird because Coach Lopez was trying to get a computer to work in his office, and it wasn't working. So he had to race out to his car and fire up his laptop and sit with that laptop in his lap in the passenger seat of his car to do this interview. And this is stage 1 of 2. We're going to catch up with him again next week to find out about dealing with the amateur landscape and multiple clubs and what they're looking to do in continuing the traditions and trying to make El Farolito a place where you can learn the game if you're in your teenage years and have multiple teams and go MLS next. And that was another step that they took this season. So it was really interesting to find out about that as well. But that deeper conversation is going to be next Tuesday on the network. So we'll have that conversation probably hour 2 next week, as opposed to having it live, because it would be 7 o'clock in the morning. So here's stage 1 of a conversation that we had with Santiago Lopez, the head coach at El Farolito in the NPSL, about doing a bunch of different things at once. And here in 2026, coming out of champ not once but twice, and going back to back in the NPSL. Have you recovered? Are you recovering? Where are you after all of this whirlwind has completed itself, at least this round?
Great to see you again, John. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, we flew back last night. I could tell you that it's been a real trip. Fatigued, finally got some sleep, not to think about so much strategy and things. So finally getting some rest. But yeah, it's been great and very tiring.
Well, and at the same time, I don't think a lot of folks know that you were chasing after multiple championships at the same time. That had to have been chaotic.
Yeah, just the rotation. We're very fortunate to have a good squad, players that around the area that want to contribute. So the season we had a second team in the San Francisco Soccer League, football soccer league, and yeah, we had some players that could step up, and just rotation to try to make the quality stay and the level stay high.
Continuity for me in a situation like this, I mean, look, I'm looking at it from a journalist perspective. That to me was it's crazy to see what you were trying to pull off. How is this from a coaching perspective with a first team and a second team? And okay, you've got to go here and do this, and you're going here to do this championship, and we're going to Bristol. And I mean, this sounds like a logistical, like a logistical dictionary or a how-to, man. How did you pull this off?
Yeah, we never planned it. They present us the opportunity to play in the Amateur Cup. We never done it before, and it hasn't been done in a long time. And we said, absolutely, we want to always learn. We want to make sure our players get exposure, that they get minutes, that help them out in their development. So yeah, without a doubt, it was just a great learning experience, and there's definitely room to improve.
When you're assembling first and second teams, I mean, I don't think a lot of folks know ages and levels of experience and all this kind of stuff. How many folks were taking time off of like real world jobs to go and be either a part of the first team or the second team? And I mean, there's a lot of sacrificing going on, I would imagine.
Yeah. So for the Utah trip for the Region 4, we already knew those dates. So a lot of people take their time off. Luckily, there are just a lot of independent contractors, so they do their own thing, personal trainers and whatnot. So there's some that have more flexibility, and always with communication, we were able to manage that. And then take not everybody that we took in Region 4. We took a smaller group to the Amateur Cup in Milwaukee, and we just try to pull it off with managing the loads, the fatigue, and all that. So it was extremely challenging, but it all worked out.
What did you learn about yourself in all of this?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I learned that I need to be more prepared and give more opportunities to players, previously knowing already they're going to be used at certain times. I knew we were going to fly to Utah. I should have played some of those players with more frequency previous to that, give them more repetition, because I feel like some of them that played in that in the Milwaukee semifinals, they didn't do as much as we expected, but it's not their fault. It was mine because I didn't prepare them enough. So I definitely need to prepare not just 24. I need to prepare everybody, including the second team, that when they need to step up to the first, they know exactly what to do. And unfortunately, some of them, because of my fault, they weren't be able to do that in Milwaukee.
Well, and when you have two teams, I imagine it's philosophically the same when it comes to approach and how you do things, game day on the field. You can't be in two places at once. At least I don't think so, unless you figured out something that a lot of coaches will want to bang on your door about. It's like, dude, how are you in two places at once? How did you navigate this from a coaching perspective and a physio perspective, monitoring injuries, making sure everybody's 100% and all that? How did you monitor all this stuff?
Yeah, well, communication with the player. Also, a lot of them already know how they are. I know when they're a bit tired. I know how they train. If they have some knock on their foot, I know how they play. So it's a lot of communication, understanding, and not pushing the player. There's players every coach wants their best players 90 minutes, but unfortunately you can't. So it's managing those type of loads and taking care of them, and just thinking of a bigger picture. We had some players that were injured for two key players in the first team that were injured for the Duluth quarterfinal here. And we had to sit them down because we were just thinking of Milwaukee, and luckily it all worked out. But it's just a lot of communication.
How hard is it to go back to back?
It's extremely difficult. Not so much about the game plan or the opponents. It's the environment inside the group. People get overconfident. They start realizing that they're starters, or they get more minutes than certain players. So it's a lot of group management. In the beginning of this year, I was coaching MLS Next Academy, and it was a real struggle for me to be at all the trainings before the Open Cup. We had 2 assistant coaches, but the group weren't responding. They weren't just bonding together. It was very, very stressful. And after I was done with that, we definitely took a more on the psychological and just personal roles of focus more on their personalities and just the game, and it just group management for sure. It's a more struggle for me. It's a more difficult thing to make everybody happy.
When you're trying to navigate all of this, like I said, I mean, just the fact that you were able to navigate and make sure that everything came out the other side. Have you ever been in your coaching career? Have you ever been in a calendar year or a season like this where you've had to jump through all of these hoops or juggle all the chainsaws or whatever? Have you ever been through a season like this before?
No, it was his first time. Coaching two clubs at the same time, and then one club trying to manage 2 teams, a first and a second team. The travel around this area, the traffic, being away from home, then competing at the Amateur Cup and NPSL. It was a lot of football, but hey, I'm extremely happy, and I, believe it or not, I have a lot of energy to continue and improve and try to keep reach as many champions as we can, for sure.
When when you go out into the communities and everybody sits there and they understand who you are and what El Farolito has been able to do, what's it like to get feedback on what you've been able to accomplish as an organization over the last couple of years?
No, they're very happy. The main message is that they're extremely, extremely happy that I continued the tradition that my dad started. I know that there's a lot of the groups from the late 80s and 90s. They see what's going on, and now they're playing over their leagues when they're over 40s, 60s, whatnot, and what my dad or El Farolito created in those times, it was just a lot of pride and joy. Having a high level team that when MLS didn't exist, to have something that it was rooted, it was created here in the community. It was in the Mission District, how it all started from the ground up, from a third division in San Francisco Soccer Football League. It was really, really, it was planted and born and taken care of here in the Mission. And to see that they remember all those great times when before the MLS, having international games here, national team players playing at Boxer Stadium, El Farolito competing against First Division South America Mexican teams. So for us to continue to do that and have, you know, the name be spread out nationally, it's kind of the same feeling for them, and it's that's the main principle. They're just very, very happy that El Farolito still exists and is competing.
So then, are you, and I mean this in the organizational sense, is El Farolito happy where it is right now as an organization, making the impacts that it is, being in the leagues that it is? Is there any thought about growth or going other places? I mean, are you happy where you are and what you're able to accomplish there through that prism?
Yeah, obviously we, at least for me, and I'm speaking for the same thing as a lot of the players, is that they want to be in a professional environment. They want to be pro. They want to be 100% dedicated to the game. Unfortunately, right now, that's not the possibility for whatever reason it is. And we just have to be patient and prepare ourselves as players and as coaches. But as an organization, I really don't know if giving shares or looking for sponsorship, you might have to exchange certain rights for the name and brand. And I know the main message of my sister, the president, and everybody else who are owners, we want to keep it in house and family. We want to be 100% local. So we just don't know, and we honestly don't even have the money to do that. It's always a struggle to maintain a business with a lot of employees. We want to make sure we keep things affordable in the restaurants. So it's a lot of things going on. And for now, I think we're very happy of being that amateur team competing against the pros. I think it serves as an example for the entire country that anybody could compete against a professional if you really want to, at least in soccer. And it's unfortunately we don't have promotion relegation for the good and the bad reasons, but this is one way to show that you can still compete.
Yeah, and that was kind of why I was asking, because of the impact that you're making as an organization, capital O, where you are, you're making as much of a statement, and you are as loud as humanly possible with what you're able to do and what you've been able to do over the last couple of years. And that's why I was asking. It's like you're smashing things and everybody sits there and they understand come Open Cup or come NPSL and come amateur competitions. They know who you are. And I didn't know if there was any thought to, yeah, we're hitting home runs the way that we are, or, you know, we're hitting solid singles and getting on base every single time and everybody knows who we are. That's why I was asking the question.
Yeah, it's complicated. We've never heard from anybody approach. There's been sponsorship approaches, but like to go professional at a different level and stuff like that, we have never received anything. We don't know if that would ever happen, and I'm positive that they're willing to, you know, listen to anybody. That's for sure. But for now, the main focus is to continue what we're doing right now and create a legacy in U.S. soccer.
Santi Lopez, the head coach at El Farolito in the NPSL, going back to back. And they are, like I said, when they get into Open Cup, they make some serious noise. And it is no surprise when they knock folks off. If anybody claims that El Farolito out of the NPSL or, you know, whichever league you're associating with them, if anybody claims that, hey, look at this team, I've never, you know, this is news to me, seeing them, you know, come to who is El Farolito, then they're not paying attention. This past year in Open Cup, in the opening round, by the way that things were laid out, they stared at Sacramento Republic in 90 minutes, and it was a goalless draw. It took to the additional 30 before Sacramento would score twice, and it was a 2-0 win for Sacramento Republic in the first round this year, going through all of the qualifying rounds and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, back in March, so January 3, so 4.5 months ago, back in round number 1, they were paired up with Sacramento Republic. Sacramento Republic needed more than 90 minutes to beat them. So that was the latest foray into Open Cup that we've seen from El Farolito. But in years past, they've knocked off teams in the California footprint. They've made decent runs, and they've caused a lot of problems. And they've done this as an amateur club. And so next week, we're going to catch up with him and find out about really the difficulties in juggling all of these things, an actual business, the chain of Mexican restaurants, and juggling that, and what you want to do with soccer, and how you want to grow the game there in Northern California, and with everyone that you touch along the way. So that was the more of the up-to-date discussion about going back-to-back in NPSL. Next week, we're going to get into the behind-the-scenes stuff and all of the logistical things and all of the challenges that they face as they try to grow the game. And they really don't have a whole lot of resources. In a perfect world, when we talked about it off camera yesterday, he's like, I'd love to have like 2 fields. But obviously real estate being as a premium as it is in the San Francisco area, it reminded me a lot of what the Oakland Ballers in the Independent Baseball League did. They found Romandi Park, and it had been run down, hadn't been used for a while. They did kind of what Detroit City did. They found a resource, invested in renovating it, and now it has turned, if you see pictures of the Oakland Ballers in independent baseball, you see what they've been able to do with a very historic facility in Romandi Park. And so El Farolito is trying to do the same thing and trying to find that space. They play at Old Kezar Stadium, which to me is fantastic. And that was where, before Candlestick Park was built, that was where the 49ers played. And so the shell of what was once Kezar Stadium is there, and it took a while to get it to just, to be basically a stadium that has a runaround track and have it look bare bones-ish, but it is still where Old Kezar Stadium was. That's where they play some of their matches. And so trying to find offset real estate where they could have 2 fields to have all these teams, as they've now dived into MLS Next, in addition to what they're doing in the San Francisco area, and creating all these opportunities and all these successes for El Farolito as a franchise, while still being an amateur club and running a business. So that's all that they've been doing. They need to have, if they figured out how to clone themselves, that would be fantastic for them. So anyway, that's the early part of our story in catching up with our friends at El Farolito, and I can't thank Coach Lopez enough. You heard about 3.5 minutes ago, or 4 minutes ago, you heard the plug-in. You kind of heard the plug-in kind of drift in and out of his laptop. That was why we had to stop the conversation right there, because the computer died. And so that's why, and also we're going to pick it up there next week. So that's the rundown there. All right, let me say hi to everybody who's been in here this morning. Oh, Relaxing Mistakem. You're going to get bumped off of here. Add to restream block list. Yes. So morning, Abby. Morning, Unk. Morning, Catalucci. Morning, David. And, I'll get into the Almada thing here in a second. So morning, Michael Head. Morning, Alex. Morning, David. Okay, so when I got into the discussion about Thiago Almada, let me see if we have an update this morning on Thiago Almada from where we were. And let's see. All right. Let's see. Yeah. And so it was Jose Boto, his quote that we mentioned this morning. I didn't go to Argentina to convince Almada because it would be stupid on Almada's part if I had to go to convince him. So played in Brazil for 6 months, knows about the greatness of Flamengo, dealt with several matters there. One of them was the Almada issue. Went there to make it clear to them that we will not enter into auctions. And this is translated. I mean, what we had agreed upon is what it will be, as if he wants to come to Flamengo. So that was Jose Boto when he was grabbed at the airport and at the car park. Looks like he's coming out of the terminal and heading to his car. So that's the latest from that perspective. Jornal do Flamengo they are aware that 2 reasons are hindering the arrival. Negotiation between Flamengo and Thiago Almada remains open, but the Rubro Negro knows, and this is translated from Portuguese, 2 factors have been complicating a positive outcome. First involves family issues for the Argentine midfielder. Second is related to the player's desire to live in Buenos Aires, a city considered more suitable for the family at the moment. After playing for Botafogo and living in Rio, Almada has come to see the Argentine capital as the ideal destination for the next stage of his career. Information published by the UOL portal. And so the Boto quote is up and around this morning. And so Kacey, right, okay, so everything is circling back to the Jose Boto, Flamengo sporting director quotes from outside the airport. What we agreed on is what will happen if he wants to come to Flamengo. We don't participate in bidding wars or auctions or whatever word you want to use. Boto also put the economic dimension from Kacey in context. Do you know how many transfers of 20 million euros or more have already been made in Brazilian football? Only 7. Clear reference to the amount of what Atletico is seeking, having paid 21 million euros for half of Almada's rights in June of 25. Concluded with a statement. Boto, Almada may come, someone else may come, or no one may come at all. But if he does come, rest assured that Flamengo will not go bankrupt. And so River Plate chasing, and considering that River Plate has lost, I think, 5 in a row in competition, 9, and they don't have a decision in 9, River Plate might be somewhat accelerated in the idea to sell or to purchase, sorry, and look at it from that perspective. You mentioned, David, the idea of not getting paid. And there is an article that is up from Catherine Batty at the Telegraph, and we're going to chase after Catherine, where she does a play-by-play of the John Textor Michelle Kang saga. And this would be today's required reading if you can find a way to get into the Telegraph. And here is that, and I posted it in the timeline. So this is the Catherine Batty article on the John Textor / Michelle Kang relationship, how incredibly testy it is. So we're going to chase after Catherine Batty and see if we can get her thoughts, because yes, Atlanta United is still owed north of $20 million. So we'll see if we can catch up with Catherine. And if we have to tape something, we'll tape it and run it. But I wanted to get into this article with her and what she has been able to find and discuss John Textor and Michelle Kang individually and then their relationship together. So that'll be kind of what we're chasing as we go when it comes to everything that is attached to that relationship. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I'm missing on the list. We mentioned that, and that. Okay, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, brought to us by our friends at Fanati, ftntz.co/soccer down here. That link is important. It helps them out, helps us out, and helps you out when it comes to anything and everything and all of the viewing habits that we have. At Fanati's, you can get all the BNs, and what I mean by all the BNs, it is everything that's up and running. It is Libertadores, Sudamericana. If you have not heard yet, we have a new episode up with Howard Hamilton, the founder of Soccer Metrics, for the Copa Libertadores show. That is up on the network. and Libertadores Sudamericana, they're up and running. You've got Middle East and North Africa. WAFCON is still in the group stage. They're through. Most of the teams are through match day 2. I think we're heading in toward match day 3, and we're efforting our friend Ali Howarth and seeing if we can catch up with him and find out what's going on at WAFCON. Obviously, the big story, Malawi with the Chawinga sisters, and with Malawi in their first appearance, knocking off 2 clubs. They're 2 wins so far in their first 2 match days. You get all of that. You get all the African continent tournaments, whether they're Olympic qualifiers or other tournament qualifiers. You get all that. You get Champions League. You get Middle East, North Africa. You end up with the French League, the Polish League, and the Turkish League. All of that on all the BNs. You get ties to Tigo Sports. You get ties to CATV. You get a lot of the A and B divisions in South America. You get TVV out of Venezuela, CDO Plus out of Chile. You get Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru. And all of those leagues in one place, A and B divisions. And that's at Fanatis Tese out of Argentina. You get them as well at fntz.co/soccer down here. So on TV today, Leagues Cup doubleheader, FS1, Cincinnati Pachuca at 7:45 at Tigres and RSL at 10. U20 Championship quarterfinals, Costa Rica and Haiti is at 6:30. USA and Guatemala is at 10. Both of those are on FS2. 2 to NA has Leagues Cup, as does Unimas, simulcasting Tigres and RSL at 10. Apple TV has all 6 matchups. Fox ONE has the CONCACAF U20s. Paramount Plus has the CONCACAF Caribbean Cup. Portmore United and Salcedo is at 6. Violette and Defense Force is at 8. Central American Cup is on Paramount Plus at 8. Plaza Amador and Firpo, 10 o'clock. 2 choices, Antigua and Real Esteli, and Diriangen and Alajuelense. Veeks has your quarterfinals in the U20s. BN has AFCON at 4 o'clock. They also have it earlier than that, but they do know it's Tanzania and Ivory Coast. That one is at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So top of the hour, Larry Berg in front of all of the cameras and assembled media. Thanks to our friend Margaret Fleming at Front Office Sports. She's out the door. She's probably in the building now. And excuse me, and getting ready for all of that. We'll have sound on that tomorrow. We're catching up with Kaylor Hodges tonight. We'll have the 30 days that have been in the USL. We got to talk about what's going on in Oakland, and we'll talk about everything else going on in USL Championship League One. And if anybody can find a Prinks tire, I'd love to see it. Dylan Butler, fresh off of probably the night shift and the overnight shift, and talking about everything Leagues Cup. We will talk with Dylan about that, and we'll do the preview part with Dylan as well, if he's awake tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So Kaylor Hodges joining us tomorrow. Dylan Butler hopefully joining us tomorrow if he's awake from his time at MLSsoccer.com. Thanks to all of y'all. And let me thank each and every one of you for being a part of things. Thanks to Margaret Fleming and everything that she does at Front Office Sports on the business side of things. Thanks to Richard Dixon, who is now the head coach at Chattanooga Football Club. Interim title taken away. Then Kacey D, great to catch up with her now that we've planted ideas in her head. Keep an eye out for her presentations for the Texas matchups in in Leagues Cup, and for Santiago Lopez for stage 1 of our conversation with him and El Farolito in the NPSL. That's another rundown of everything here at SDH AM. Tonight, it is Atlanta Soccer tonight, if my memory serves, and it will be an opportunity for Jason to be first in the barn to discuss the Larry Berg press conference. Atlanta Soccer tonight at 10 o'clock, 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app. It's going to be Larry Berg, Mauricio Pochettino, and where Jason thinks priorities need to be from here. So we'll keep an eye out on all of that. To all of you there, from all of us here, thanks for dropping by. It's another go round of SDH AM. Since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Back at it again here in a little less than 22 hours. Mucha plati, I'll play it safe. We will catch up with you again tomorrow morning.